Okay, first things first, we're going to make a off the shoulder stretch velvet dress. The way we're going to achieve that is having about 1.5 yards of fabric. It's going to need to stretch a little bit going up and down, not very much. And then a horizontal or left to right stretch. You're going to need pins to your liking that you're comfortable with, thread that matches, and if you watch my last video, all you do is open the thread that goes there, lay it over the fabric to see if it disappears. If it does or blends very well with the fabric, it matches. A pair of scissors and a dress that fits you very well. So if you want to know how to make this dress, please keep watching. First things first, I have my fabric laying in the direction that stretches horizontally, and I want it to be able to fit my body like a glove. So I already folded my fabric in half, but I'm going to fold it in half again so that I could cut my front and my back piece out together. So I forgot to mention, for your supplies, you will also need some elastic. Okay, so you will need a knit non-roll elastic, so you will need that as well. This is 3/8 of an inch wide. So back to what I was saying, you will also need to take your shoulder measurement, but we'll talk about that later. Now what you want to do is fold your fabric in half. I've already done that one time, and now I'm folding it in half again. Here is my fold line, and now I'm taking a selvage, which is the edge of the fabric, and I'm laying it out. And now I'm taking another edge of the fabric and I'm laying that out as well. Make sure that your velvet is laying flat. Although this is stretch knit, you want to handle it with great care. And then here is my other fold in half again. And I'm smoothing it out to make sure that all of my fabric pieces are where it should be. Lay your dress out flat. Tuck your sleeves in. Lay your dress out flat so that you can see where your seams are, so that it's a seamless process. Alright, so you will take your sleeves and you will fold them on the inside. You don't want them in the way because you're going to cut out your armholes at the same time as we roll this over. We're going to take our dress and we're going to fold it and match it at the shoulders. We will pin it even though we're folding it down in that area. We will take this one, the underarm right here will be folded in together, and then I will pin that down, scooch down. You want a dress that fits the curve of your body. If it doesn't curve and your dress goes straight down right here, you can pull it in and curve it when you cut it out. Mine's already fits my body exactly how I like it. So that's why I'm showing you all just how to cut this out. This is more of a tutorial to show you how to achieve the off the shoulder look. I am matching all of the seams up, and I am pinning it down so that you can see I'm making it so that it stays in place once I have pinned it all down. And you want it to go from top to bottom. This cutout of this dress is the perfect silhouette for most body types. So even if you have a wide midsection with it curving in the middle, It still hugs your body exactly the way you need to. It's a stretch knit, and then what we're working with is a stretch velvet. Put your garment that you're using as a guide on the edge where the fold, and I'll let you guys see that. Put your garment on the edge where the fold of your fabric is. You want to make sure your fabric is still laying flat. You're going to take your folded side and lay that on the edge of the fabric. You're going to leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance when you cut this item out, when you cut out your dress. Before you cut anything, you need to take your shoulders and measure at your neckline or wherever you folded your dress down about 5 inches from the neckline. My dress went all the way up to my neck right here, so I want it to drop down a little bit. I don't want it directly under me. And I'm going to pin my dress where I want the fold to stop so that I don't fold it in the wrong spot. I'm going to take the edge of my shoulder that's on my dress, and I'm going to fold it down right here. So that way when I cut it out, it's right where I need it to be. I test my fabric again to make sure it's laying flat, and I feel around to make sure the fold lines match up. Then I pin down my dress once more. I'm repositioning it so that I know that I'm putting this exactly where it needs to be. And now what I will do, now what I will do is fold my dress down a little bit so that's even, because my edges here on my fabric are not even. So when I cut it out, I'm going to have to be very careful about that. So when you order your fabric, make sure you get about 2 yards. I didn't get quite enough. I don't think this is, when it's folded this way, it's not quite enough fabric. So this is approximately, no, this is exactly 1 yard, and you want about 1.25 yards. If you're taller than I am, I'm 5 feet tall. I ordered this fabric so that I could make a blouse. I didn't get it so I could make a dress, but there was a change in plan. Now you want to take your scissors, cut out your fabric for the front and back piece of your dress. For the front piece, leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance as you're cutting, and if you don't know how much that is, take a seam gauge that comes with your sewing kit, whatever it is that you have, and use that as your guide. But make sure you leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You're still going to cut out your sleeve just as you normally would. But you want to make sure it's even. Keep in mind, all of this will be used to trace the dress. Right? Cut out your sleeve. Don't cut your dress. You're still leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And a seam allowance is just, you're leaving enough space so that you cut your dress out correctly. Now I'm cutting the hem of the dress. Take the hem of that garment, cut it out. This is where we're cutting out the silhouette of the dress. You can take a piece of tailor's chalk and you can trace it out over the fabric as you're using the seam gauge, or something that I've done to measure out a 1/2 inch. From here to here is 1/2 inch. So you could take your finger and use that as your gauge to go around your fabric and trace. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eyeball it. Cut it out. I'm using a smaller seam allowance, but it's because I'm eyeballing it. Make sure you're using your fabric scissors. You don't want to use another type of scissors. You don't want to snag your fabric. You want it to come out beautifully. I'm going to correct the cutout that I did down here because I left it too wide and I want it to be tight around my legs. On the bottom when I cut it out, I've cut out my dress. When you open it, you should have a dress. When you're done, cut that out. You should have a front piece and a back piece and leave. We're going to do the same thing we did in the front. I know that my sleeve from shoulder to the end of it is 20 inches long. In order to do your sleeve, you're going to take your piece of fabric. It's already cut on this side and it's already cut on this side of your fabric, and then it's also a fold here. There's no cut, so we're going to freehand cut this where the fold is because you're making a sleeve. This is actually a fold, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. I'm going to keep an eye out for the little portion that's not on there. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to take the piece that opens up and makes my sleeve, just so you all can see. And pull this closer so I can get a better grip on it. And then I'm going to cut smaller as I go down my arm sleeve. And because this is the end of my fabric, I want it to all be even. I'm going to take my ruler, lay it on here. And then I'm going to get my rotary cutter and cut it straight. Take your rotary cutter. You cut your item on top of your mat. Don't cut with your rotary cutter on a regular tabletop surface. I don't care about this one because I bought this table for that purpose, to cut on it. And then I'm going to take that and cut my sleeve out with it. Cut myself or my dress. I still love that dress. I still wear it. Time to switch blades. Alright. There's a dip in the table, so it didn't quite catch that. Now I need to curve this part around so that it fits the garment. And you're just going to curve around just a little bit. There you go. So you have your sleeves cut out and you have your dress cut out. You're going to take your dress and you're going to connect it at the shoulders. You're going to take your dress, you're going to lay it out. You're going to put, this is, I'm going to try to do a close-up. This is the right side of the fabric. That's what we mean by right side, the side that we want everyone to see. This is the back side of the fabric. This has less sheen. You can't see the velvet. It's just the bland side of the fabric. This is the side that I'm going to lay down flat. I'm going to lay my other piece on top of it. Now you see the wrong side of this fabric because I have the right side facing this one as well. What I'm going to do is take my dress, I'm going to sew it down on the side going along here after I pin it. along the edges here. I cut a little close to my garment, so I'm going to do the seam allowance that I choose. And then I'm also going to pin it on the edges right here. And I'm going to pin those down just so that I know where everything needs to be. I'm going to do the beginning and the end of the stitch is where I'm going to pin it. I'm not going to pin it anywhere else. And that's just so it'll stay in place. I'm going to do the same thing here. And my nose was itchy on the edge, not in. And then I'm going to pin it on the other side. Okay, so we're going to sew it edge, edge, here, here. I'm going to take my sleeves. I'm going to pin those down while I'm standing here. And I will show you when I return how we will accomplish this look. So take your sleeve. Let me move this fabric out of the way. Take your sleeve. This is the right side of the fabric. You're going to take that and you're going to, this is the right side, this is the wrong side. The side with the velvet showing is my right side. I'm going to pin that in half. I'm going to pin at the beginning and I'm going to pin at the end. I don't need any pins in between. I'm just showing you about where you should pin it. You should be able to guide your fabric through here as you're sewing it down. It doesn't take 50 million pins on a straight stitch. That's that piece. Here's the right side of my other sleeve. I'm going to fold that over. I'm going to pin the beginning. And then I'm going to pin the end of where I'm going to stitch. And on this sleeve, I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And in between, I'm just going to match up my pieces together. And I'm going to use a stretch stitch. Again, you want to use a stretch stitch or a zigzag stitch. And I'll show you what it looks like after I've sewn everything down. I wanted to show y'all something. When you're sewing with velvet fabric, it will slide while you're sewing with it, but you can't see it sliding when you're feeding it through your machine. So I wanted to show you a couple things. You can cut the tension down on your machine, and you can also either use a walking presser foot, which looks like this, with your tension cut down, or you can use what's called a walking feed dog, or is it an even feed presser foot or a walking presser foot. This one is not walking, if that's what I called it. It is a roller presser foot, and you want to use that with less tension. Another thing that you want to do is buy a universal pack of needles. The universal pack of needles has universal needles, and it also has ballpoint needles. The universal needles are for your woven fabrics. It comes from light duty to heavy duty for your general use fabrics. You also want to use the ballpoint needles that have the yellow tip. Those are for your knit fabrics. Here's how you know the difference between the yellow and the red foot. This is a yellow tip needle, if you can see it. And let me make sure I put that back in the right slot. And this is something that you can use to put inside of your sewing machine. And you should have a manual on your machine to tell you how to load it in there. So that's not something I would have to show you how to do if you need to change your needle, but you do need to use a size 80/11 needle. And you also want to use what's called a walking presser foot. Now what you want to do is take the halfway point of your fabric for your sleeve. You want to turn it in half, and then you want to clip a notch at the top of it so that you know where to put the top of your shoulder pattern onto your dress when you get ready to cut it out. And there's your other notch that you clipped. When you turn it right side out and you put it inside of your dress, the part where you clipped a notch will be right here, as you can see. You're going to match it with your shoulder seam where you have sewn down your fabric for your front and back dress pieces, and you're going to pin them down. Then you're going to take that same piece, you're going to take the bottom, spread it out so that everything's laying flat. You're going to pin it to the armpit of your other sleeve. After you've pinned it right there, you're going to pin it down going all the way around. And again, you want the sides that everybody's going to see to be together, and we call those the right side. So you want the right sides together. It's so hard getting those. Have my garment done here, I need to roll my fabric on my neckline over so that you all can see. This is what I have on my neckline. What I'm going to do is take my fabric on my sleeve and I'm going to roll it over about 1 inch. I'm going to double fold it. I'm going to fold it 1 time. And then once again on both sleeves. It's velvet, so I'm going to do it once. Even though that raw edge is going to be out, I'm going to trim it close to the stitch, and I'll let you all see that once I'm done. But I'm going to fold it over just 1 time. About 1/4 of an inch. There's going to be barely enough room to fit my arm through there, but I want it tight like that on purpose so that it doesn't shift around. And I'm going to pin it down on the other arm. So that's for that sleeve. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to... Is it recording me?
Yes.
Can you see my chest?
Yes.
Alright, so I have my daughter JJ helping me out. Wave, JJ. Say hello.
Hello.
So I'm going to measure around my shoulders, and I got approximately 39 inches. So what I'm going to do is take this fabric and I'm going to fold it over.
Hi.
And I'm going to fold it this way. I'm going to pin it down, and I'm going to sew close to the edge of where I'm going to try to make it wide enough for my elastic to fit through.
They're trying to say hi. I just keep on telling them so they can't say hi. They're trying to say hi.
This part will be folded down. I'm going to fold it down about the same width. I'm just eyeballing it and testing out my elastic close to it so that I know it's going to be stabilized and in place. This is the front or back side of my dress, whichever side I choose to put it on, or make the front or the back. I've cut them out exactly the same, so it doesn't matter at this point. It's stretch knit. I just wanted to make sure that it fits at the waist. So I'm going to test out my elastic again and make sure that it fits correctly. It's a little wide. So So once I get to that front V, I'm going to roll that down. I'm going to pull it up. It's still going to dip in the front when you see it on the end. Okay. I'm going to leave enough space to fit my elastic through and sew over it. Then I'm going to pin it down and then continue. You're going to leave about an inch of it unsewn. So this is the neckline to the blouse. You're going to take your elastic, you're going to put a pin on it and then push it through all the way around. I tried my dress on, it fit just fine. I might have snipped a little too much off the shoulder, so it's fine. It still fits. I mean, it's elastic. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew down. What I need to do now is sew down the elastic. And then once I sew down the elastic, I'm going to sew along the edge